Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for joining today. I appreciate you, your time, and your support. In today's video, I want to share with you how I'm going to go about stripping down my Grote 335 semi-hollow body electric guitar so that way I could sand it down to prep it for wood burning. So for those that are looking to do something similar, whether you're modding your guitar or you're just wanting to know how to disassemble a 335, this video may be for you. Should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to please drop a comment down below and I will do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. Let's get right on into this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to remove this pick guard right here. Me personally, I'm going to leave it off. I'm not a big fan of the pick guard look. To each their own though, I'm sure a lot of us may like it. I'm not saying it looks bad because it doesn't by any means look bad. I personally just don't want it on my guitar because I am going to be wood burning it, so I would rather have my wood burn design show through than have a pick guard there. But again, you know, that may change. I may end up putting it on later on. I'll go ahead and update you as I go, but as of now I want to remove the pick guard permanently and keep it off, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to take a star screwdriver, as you see me doing here, and remove the screws like so. There will be these holes showing up, unfortunately, but for me that's neither here or there. I can always go back and seal those should I ever choose to do so, but they're not that big a deal, so I'm just going to leave them alone and move on to the next part. What I want to do next is I want to loosen all of these strings so that way I could remove the strings to start taking off all the individual components and the hardware from the guitar. Removing the strings is up next. I am going to be using my little guitar tool right here to cut the strings off. I will go ahead and leave my Amazon links for you in the description below to the gear featured in this video in case you want to check any of it out on your end. Now, if you're following along with me, you're going to notice that the bridge loosens up now, and from here we can simply remove the bridge by sliding it off like so, and then we can take out all of the strings and then place the bridge on over to the side as we will need it later on. We don't want to lose any of these pieces, so you may want to keep them all together in like some sort of bucket or a bowl or something that you can come back to. This is what the guitar looks like up top, so you can see right here, this is where the bridge went. I went ahead and I took it off. Now I'm going to go ahead and start removing all of this hardware so that way I could sand down the entire face of the 335 semi-hollow body. This is how easy the bridge slides in and out, so you may want to be careful as it could potentially scratch your guitar if you don't brace it before it falls off. Another thing that's cool about disassembling our guitars is that we get full access to the fretboard, so we can go and oil it, polish it, whatever we would want to do to our fretboards. We have like more control when we kind of disassemble the guitar in this manner. So getting comfortable with disassembly is actually a really good step in the right direction, and I encourage guitarists to get comfortable with maintaining their guitar. I want to gain access to the truss rod, so next I'm going to remove this Grote guitar plate right here that you see me removing, and I'm just going to place it on over to the side. I'm going to put these little pieces with these little screws right here in a little ziploc so that way I don't lose them, as they are going to be very important. But as you can see, once I remove the plate, it's just that one screw holding it in place, and there is the truss rod. The next step is going to be to remove these little screws right here on the back of the tuners. I want to remove all 6 of them so that way I can remove the tuners from the other side of the headstock. So this is the next step. I'm going to remove these little guys right here, which brings me to the next step after that. I'm going to remove these bolts up top so that way the tuners can come out of the headstock. If you are a guitarist and you are afraid or maybe even intimidated to work and maintain your guitars, I encourage you to not feel that way. It's actually a really cool practice to know. Sometimes we may need to go to professionals. Let's say if we're swapping out pickups and we're not familiar with that, then we may need to pay someone. But overall, maintaining a guitar is something that we can do ourselves, and I encourage every guitarist to get comfortable. All you really need is the right tools for the application and a good amount of patience, maybe even a healthy environment like a table to lay your guitar down with like a matted bottom so that way it's not on like a hard surface. Little things like that really do add up and go a long way. Removing the tuners is a pretty straightforward process. As you can see, it's kind of plug and play. I'm just using the right tool, the right size to remove and loosen that top bolt, and then I can even do the rest by hand, which loosens the entire tuner and it comes out of the headstock, and all I'm left with is just the headstock with the holes as you saw there. The next step is going to be to remove these knobs right here, and I want to take these out by just simply pulling them up. Most knobs are going to be this way. Some may be a little bit more harder over others. In that instance, you may want to use like a pick or a credit card, slide it under, and then kind of like lift it up, so to speak. The next step I'm going to move on to is removing these right here. So these are the bridge this is the bridge hardware that I'm taking out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew it the way that you see me doing right here, and I'm going to take both of them out. Here's something that's very important. These bridge screws right here are kind of embedded to some other screws that are installed into the semi-hollow body, as you can see right here. I also want to remove those so that way I don't have to work around them as I sand. If I don't remove them, then it's going to be very difficult to fully sand this area, and the goal is to be able to fully sand it so that way I could wood burn it. If you have a 335 or you're following along with disassembly, you're going to notice that these are embedded in there and they can't be pulled out by hand. At least not for me, I couldn't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down a microfiber as you see me doing here. I'm actually going to take that bridge screw and push it, or I'm sorry, screw it back in rather. And then from here, I'm going to get a tool to kind of wedge up so that way I could pull that bottom screw out of the body. And this is how I'm going to do it. This is something that you want to be really careful with. So as you can see, I'm going to use wire cutters right here, or some very needle nose pliers, very thin pliers. I'm using a Scotch shop wipe to place around to give it an extra layer of padding, and I'm putting the edges, the tips of those wire cutters on the microfiber to prevent any sort of damage happening to the body. And this is working for me. I'm not breaking through the Scotch shop wipes or the microfiber, so the body of the guitar never feels the tips of the needle pliers there. I feel like this actually may be one of the hardest parts of disassembly. You can see after I loosened it, I just kind of went around 360 pulling each side out individually. Once I did that, it loosened enough so I can pull it out by hand. It may be a little bit different for you, but this method did work for me, and I'm going to use this each and every time on my guitars, just because if it works, don't fix it. I did this exact same method for both sides of the bridge hardware, and it did work out just fine. Let me know in the comment section down below if you approach this section a little bit differently. I would like to hear how you go about it. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the bridge screws. As you can see, they're all gone now. And I'm ready to kind of proceed on to the next phase, which would be to remove the pickups and then maybe even tie the switches on the knob so that way those don't fall into the body of the guitar. And I feel that's the second hardest part, is when we have to kind of tie those volume knobs or the parameter knobs there so that way we don't lose them in the body. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward process, and with the correct patience and tools, it's really not too difficult. This is where we're at right now. So you can see all the tuners are removed from the headstock, as well as the headstock plate right there. And from here, I'm going to do the knobs next, and I'll save the pickups for last. I feel like the pickups are the easiest part, so I want to kind of worry about the more challenging task right now so I can kind of get them done. Where I'm going to begin is, if you notice, I'm going to get the tool size right here, and I'm just simply going to loosen these bolts just a little bit to leave me enough room to tie a string around them. And for this string, I'm not really going to use a string specific. I'm going to be using a very, very thin wire. I feel like this would be a better approach, as I don't want to risk not being able to get it tight around the knobs, and I also don't want to risk the string busting on me, so I'm going to go with a very, very thin wire. This part right here, my tool doesn't access the bottom part of the bolt, so I'm just going to get some pliers, get a nice firm grip so that way I don't strip the hardware and I don't damage the body of the guitar, and I'm just simply going to loosen it up as I did the other ones. The wire that I'm going to be using is this master wire right here, 34 gauges. As you can see, it is a stainless steel wire. I wanted to go with something that would provide me with a bit more durability, so that way I can get a bit of an easier workflow here. I didn't want to have to worry about string being thin to break on me, or if I over tighten it I would lose the tie on it. I didn't want to deal with any of that, so I went with this stainless steel wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this wire, and I'm just simply going to wrap it around under the bolts that we just loosen, so that way I can get a tie on each one of these knobs. This is very important, because if I remove these bolts and I'm not paying attention along the way as I'm disassembling here, these switches could fall into the body, making them very difficult to get out or next to impossible for me. Now, I'm not really familiar with the insides of the guitar, so I would rather not deal with that, which is why I'm using this wire right here. So I'm going to wrap the wire, and I'm simply going to get a tie. From here I can remove the bolt and the washer, and I can just drop the knob down into the guitar now, and then when I'm done, I'm just simply going to pull it up with the wire. So I'm able to pull the knob back out, as you can see, and the wire is holding up pretty fine. I'm putting a little bit of force on it, and there's no breakage or anything going on, which lets me know that this is going to be a little bit more reliable for me. I'm going to do this with all of the knobs that are available on my guitar. I don't want to lose any of them. I do want to be able to sand right over them without having to sand around circles. I wouldn't really be able to get an accurate sand with a machine. If I'm not able to do this, I would have to do it by hand, which will take a much longer time. Once I'm done stringing all of these up, I'm going to bring these strings together, these wires as you see, and I'm basically going to tape them to the edge of the guitar to hold them in place for now. This is what the final results look like here for these ties on the knobs. Moving on to the next part, I'm now ready to remove these pickups here. Now, when I say remove, that's not really the correct term because I'm just going to take them off of the body, but I'm not going to cut them or disconnect them from the actual guitar as I don't want to have to solder them back later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these outer screws right here as you see me doing, and what this is going to do is this is going to allow me to get under those pickups there, so that way when I'm sanding these areas, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick the pickup up and then with the sand machine just go right under it, making it a bit more easier for me as opposed to having to work around all of this. So you can see that here is this pickup. It is ready to be picked up and sanded underneath, and I would much rather go this route again, so that way I don't have to risk messing up the guitar or solder later on or anything like that. It just, for me, it's a bit easier just to kind of pick them up as I'm sanding those areas and then place them back down. There we go. Loosening the pickups is as easy as that, and then I can sand all of these areas with ease. It makes it much easier to do so, and I want to go for the best quality of sand that I can provide to this guitar, so that way I get a very clean wood burn. Here is a sanding machine that I'm going to be using. I'm going to start by sanding down this headstock, so that way it's just the natural wood color showing, and then I'm only going to sand the front right now of this guitar. As I start getting this design done and completed, I may do a full 360 wood burn on this guitar. I am going to make videos, so be sure to stick around for that and hit that subscribe button for me. So from here you can see I have my sander ready to go, and I'm just simply going to sand this all down. As you can see, it's already working, and I really want that natural wood color, so that's what I'm going for. But again, I'm not going to leave it like that. As I've mentioned many times in this video, the only reason I'm doing this is because I want to wood burn my own custom designs onto my guitar. I didn't record the entire sanding process as I feel it's a pretty straightforward process. As you can see, it's just kind of this over and over and over until I got these results right here. You're going to notice that the front of the guitar doesn't have a shine to it, but the side and around of it does. So you can see off to the side, we can see the glare of the light, but in the front of the guitar, it's all sanded down. There is no shine. The front of this guitar is 110% ready to be wood burn. All I have to do now is put a design on there, which I will make another video on, and I'll make another video on how I go about wood burning. But this is the final result right here. This right here is the guitar sanded down, prepped, and ready. This is the headstock for those who are interested. I personally prefer the headstock with this natural wood color right here versus the original that it came with. I'm a big fan of this, and that plate that you saw me take off earlier, stick around so you can see how I customized that as well. But this is the headstock. As you can see, I got as far as I could, so that way I kind of stayed away from that bone nut there, so that way I didn't damage it. But I did get pretty close, and it's neither here or there. I could just kind of wood burn and blend that into the design. All in all, though, I do feel happy with how it came out. This is all that I have for you today. If you have any questions at all, I encourage you to please drop a comment down below, and I will do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you watching. You have a great day.